Hi, I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
Norm, headphones.
You have the Astro A50s. Why are they better than the A40s?
So these are wireless. You'll know.
Already.
Here. Yeah. So the way this works is you have a mix amp, as you did before with the A40s. If you don't remember, the A40s were among my favorite high-end PC headsets. They're $250 with the mix amp and the headphones. Tons and tons of inputs. So you can plug in a console, your PC, an iPod. It does this thing that nobody ever uses at LAN parties where you can connect a bunch of mix amps directly to each other and have latency-free direct communication from headset to headset. Real people don't use that in their homes.
So to be clear, the reason they were $250 is partly because the drivers are good in the headphones.
Yes.
But also you're paying for that mix amp.
The mix amp was you could buy them separately and get, the A40s would plug directly into the back of the PC with just a normal analog line in, which is great.
Yeah.
But the mix amp, really, if you have a desk with a couple consoles on it and a PC, it's a great way to have all of your stuff coming into one pair of headphones. And they were really great sounding headphones. Tuned a little bit more for the mid-range and highs because the pro gamers that they were catering to wanted directional sounds, and the bass kind of muffles that. So not the best maybe for music listening, but awesome for playing games. So the A50s are a more mainstream headphone from Astro.
So not just for gaming?
Not just for gaming. These are designed for living room use. They're wireless. As you can see, the mix amp, they previously had a wireless solution for the A40s, but it was a little bit awkward and resulted in cables all over your living room. This new one means that you basically, this has a transmitter, comes into here, you plug this into your console with a USB to power it, and then say an optical audio out.
Okay.
Or you can pull the pass-through off your TV if your TV passes through 5.1 sound. And then everything else goes through here, except if you're playing, say, Xbox games and you want to get in-game audio, voice communication. You plug in,
you still need to plug in the
down
analog.
here. Yeah, so you have one cable that runs from your controller to the headset. That's it. You put them on. They're closed-ear design, so the previous A40s were pretty open. You could hear what was going on around you. In order to block out sound, you have to get pretty loud.
And because they're closed-ear, it's a little more difficult to hear the outside world.
You're definitely sounding pretty muffled right now. I can't tell if you're yelling or using a normal tone of voice.
But it's definitely not as a sound dampening as like the Bowers & Wilkins P5s.
They're less compression. It's different. I'd have to do a direct comparison with those. I didn't test those. They're not as isolating as, say, a pair of good in-ear buds, but they're definitely better than the A40s and better than the Razer, the last Razer set of headphones I tested. So a couple of things to note. One of the things that's important to this is when you have the game audio and the voice comm coming from the headset or from the PlayStation 3 or whatever, then you use this guy to control the split between them. So before you had an analog dial that you could twist and go either full game, full voice, somewhere in between on the mix amp. Because the mix amp's going to be in your entertainment center now and far away from you, that all happens here. And these are just a couple of rocker switches. So you push forward for game and backwards for voice.
And that means these panels aren't as interchangeable as they were in the A40s.
They aren't interchangeable at all. So
no upsell for the penny arcade ones.
I think they'll probably eventually do ones that are themed for specific games, but nothing to announce at this time. And the other thing that you lose with that is you used to be able to change the side the microphone was on from left to right, depending on what you wanted. You can't do that anymore either, unfortunately.
Are they comfortable?
They're very comfortable. They're a little tiny bit heavier than the A40s, but not so much that I noticed. And I think they added a little bit more padding in the headband so that you could wear them for long periods of time.
Seems like you got a lot of hair caught in here already.
I wore them quite a bit. They're very comfortable. I found 6-7 hour sessions were no problem. I was just listening to music, walking around the house with them on all day Saturday. The battery seems to be about 6 hours, 7 hours at the outside.
Rechargeable lithium-ion?
Rechargeable lithium-ion. They're built into the device, so that means if you want to replace them eventually, then you'll have to send them back to the manufacturer. But they said by the time they have that as a problem, then they'll have added
How do they charge?
fixtures back. So they have a mini USB port rather on the underside. This mix amp plugs into the console, as I said before. There's a USB port on the back of the mix amp that you should theoretically be able to charge from. You can also charge and listen at the same time if you're sitting on the couch and have like an iPhone charger or something like that. But the cables that they provided weren't really long enough to do that.
Yeah, so you can't charge while listening, like hand with the Logitech.
It's a 1 meter cable is the long one. You would literally have to, if your charger's on the floor and the cable's here, it just wasn't long enough.
Yeah, and no capacitive charging.
No capacitive charging or any of that nonsense. I didn't even use the stand in my house. I found the stand a little bit goofy. I hid this in my entertainment center and just left these on the table by my couch.
Okay.
Couple of other things to note: controls, power. There's 3 audio presets built in. There's one that's for gaming, one that's for music. I think the third one's for movies. I couldn't really tell the difference between the music and movies ones, but this did help solve the problem that the A40s had, where the bass response was kind of bad for music listening and things like that. I found on the top 2 settings, they were fine for listening to music.
So they're a little more expensive than the A40s. You've been using the A40s for a long
Years,
time.
yeah.
Because they're your favorite for both on your desk, for both
Yes.
PC gaming and for console gaming. Is there an advantage if you're using this on your desk and not in the living room?
I can't imagine there's actually fewer inputs on the back of the mix amp. The other one had RCA inputs, so you could do a couple of analog inputs as well as an optical input.
This one has
This
auxiliary?
one only has one analog input and one optical, but it's a pass-through. So you can run the optical in from the console and then back out to the TV or receiver or whatever. If I were doing it on a desk and didn't care about wires, I'd much rather have the A40 and the mix amp, which they're still going to sell. They're not getting rid of the A40.
There is a $50 price difference, and there are new drivers in the actual headphones.
Exactly. I didn't notice a massive difference. Like I said, they're a little bit bassier. That could be because of the tuning on the EQ. They say they're going to offer the ability to manually tune the EQ at some point in the future. That stuff doesn't work right now. They do use Dolby Digital Live 5.1 headphone codec, so you do get kind of positional sound.
Right.
I'm not super impressed by that, but it's not bad. It's not offensive.
Okay. I mean, it's a $300 headset, but if you compare it to like a dedicated $300 headphones, these aren't going to be as good.
Nowhere near as good.
Yeah. Because a lot of it is paying for the mix amp.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that the microphone is the Rev 3, the third Rev from the A40s. It's quite a good microphone. I've even used it for podcasts and things like that in the past, and it's not as good as a big
I would never
stand-up
recommend
condenser amp.
Yeah.
It's better than your average headset microphone.
If you're going to podcast, get a dedicated
Get a real
condenser
microphone,
mic.
yeah. A couple of other things. Volume control it's not fixed. It's freewheel, so it resets every time you power the headphones up and down.
Oh, I don't like that.
No, it's actually really good because it means when you have your volume up at the end of a long session, you put them on the next day. You don't blow your ears out, which is quite good.
Okay.
Now there's bad news.
Uh-oh.
So I use these a fair amount, and while they sound great when they're working, I experienced quite a few audio drops during playback.
So you're saying the wireless connection between the mix amp and the headphones aren't perfect?
Don't know what the problem is. I talked to Astro about it. They said that there's a firmware problem that they'll update in the not too distant future. It should be fixed in the versions that are going out now, but the initial run and the first people who are purchasing them, as well as all of the press kits, supposedly had this bug. I got audio drops about every 5 minutes.
Wow, that's frequent.
A very short, kind of almost like a pop.
And
it
then
just goes away and then comes back. Goes away and then comes back. At first, I thought it was because of a battery issue. It seems like it's affecting all of the review units.
So it's acknowledged problem by Astro, but they say
I wouldn't buy them
firmware-
until they fix it.
Okay.
For $300, I expect to be flawless audio. There's a slight, almost
It's got to
imperceptible
give my ears a
hum.
massage for $300.
It should rub your ears and do happy things for you. Slight imperceptible hum almost when you turn them on and power them up. That disappears the moment there's any sound being played, so I don't find that particularly offensive. All in all, if it weren't for the drop sound problem, these would be a really no-brainer recommendation.
But not an upgrade from the A40s.
Not
if you
an
own
upgrade.
the A40s, you don't need to spend an additional $300.
If you're happy with the amount of cables that the A40s come with, which is fairly significant, then stick with them. These are, if you are a married dude with a bunch of kids, you find yourself sitting late at night in the living room just playing games and listening to loud noises in headphones. That's what this.
And living room is key. That's really the benefit of the wireless
Of course.
feature in the new A50s. Is that if you have if you play your desk, A40s are fine. But if you have a PC in your living room, an HTPC,
Exactly.
an Xbox and a PS3, these will work just fine
Or
too.
actually just one of the two, because you'll have to disconnect and reconnect. So one console, one analog input. That's it for this guy. I think it's a pretty good upgrade, regardless. I would wait to buy anything until they fix the audio disconnect problem.
Yep, check Astro's website.
So for Tested, I'm Will.
I'm Norm.
See you guys later.
Bye.